Welcome to Jets Rewind. I'm Marty Schupak. I'm in New York, and I'm joined by my very close friend of many years, Ralph Schrager. He's up in Massachusetts, and Ray Clifford is taking a much uh, deserved personal day today, so he won't be with us. And we're about 25 minutes removed or after with the Jets lost to the LA Rams 19-9, and I'll just make a couple of opening remarks as the Jets were held scoreless to the in the second half. But first thing is this head coach, we say it over and over again, he's so over his head. It's like putting Marty and Ralph in a head of surgery to perform a heart operation. We wouldn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do. What he does going for it on fourth down, and then what he did to the clock with 2 minutes and 21 seconds to go, and Aaron Rodgers wanted a timeout. He has no idea. He can't think ahead more than one play. Great coaches will, in their minds, just like a chess player, think of different scenarios, thinking ahead. If this happens, then what? Then I know we're going to do this. If that happens, this is what I'm going to do. But Jeff Olbrich, he cannot think ahead at all. And also, I want to mention too, this whole thing with our quarterback Aaron Rodgers and having a love fest with Devontae Adams. It's nice when it works, but it's so ridiculous. And if I was Garrett Wilson, I would be so upset. It's just horrible what happened. A case in point on the 4th and 4. If you look at the replay, he went into the end zone, left corner, Devontae Adams. If you look over the middle, uh, Garrett Wilson was doing a slant wide open for the 4 yards for a first down. But apparently, our quarterback is more concerned about, nostalgia and setting records for his receiver. It's just, I don't want him back next year. I know Ralph was talking to me. The other thing I want to mention too, these penalties are just awful what's happening. But Ralph pointed out part of the reason is because um, our quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, he's got time and he starts moving around, and then the defensive linemen change their direction. It's hard not to hold them. We got called, I think, 6 times. And the biggest thing to come out of this is that Olo Fashanu, our very good rookie, went out of the game with a foot injury. I just watched Jeff Olbrich's press conference. He's got no update, so I don't even know where that stands. So they lost 19-9, shut out in the second half. We'll get into it a little bit. We'll stay on as long as we could, though. I'm getting so sick of talking about this team. It's just incredible. So with that, let me turn it over to Ralph. Ralph, give me your opening remarks.
Wow, how do I follow that intro? Well, Marty, as far as the penalties goes, I have good news from Matt Lewis. He said Congress is going to change a flag day from June 14th to any day the Jets have a game. Um,
Yeah.
the timeouts, you didn't even talk the first half. At the end of the first half, they were down 30 seconds left in the half. They have all three timeouts and they're about to, have a penalty for a delay of game, and he doesn't call a timeout. He's got three sitting there with 30 seconds. 5 yards they lose. They end up on the 3 or 2 yard line and have to kick a field goal. That could have been the difference. Yeah, he's. I remember that movie in the '90s, Clueless. I think they're doing a remake. It's the Jeff Ulbrich story. He's just
Right.
unbelievable. I feel sorry for the guy. He's in over his head. It's embarrassing. And as far as Aaron Rodgers goes, he gets very pissy all the time. Sometimes with good reason because he's frustrated with Ulbrich, but sometimes it's really on him. And the idea of getting him back again next year, oh, I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, if a new general manager is thinking of drafting a quarterback in the first round, I don't want him to play all year. So yeah, if Aaron Rodgers wants to be the sacrificial lamb next year, maybe that's not a bad thing because they got to pay. They're on the hook for this guy regardless, I believe. Um, it's funny because in the first half, they looked really good. They looked crisp. And like, Ray and I have always been saying, it's all about the offensive line, which has gotten more solid. Unfortunately, Fashion got hurt, so that's going to hurt. But next year coming back, if they have four of these five guys, they pick a tackle maybe in the second round because I don't think you want to pick a right tackle in the first round, although, it can happen. And, maybe they're better next year. But, God, you're right about the Devontae Adams thing. It's kind of creepy because, it's almost like you're in eighth grade and you're playing pickup and you just keep throwing to your best friend.
Right.
It's like, or in basketball, you just pass to your best friend.
Right.
Yeah, it's not healthy at
Yeah,
all.
and last week the second half was wonderful. As I said, it was probably the best half I saw a Jet receiver have since I've been following. But Ralph, it's just they keep shooting themselves in the foot. The lack of discipline as far as the penalties and everything else is just beyond belief. There were a couple of plays I just want to point out, and I don't care what the commentator says or the color man. I don't tell me the sun was in our players' eyes when Aaron Rodgers
That
dropped
was-
passes, when Oliver drops a short pick six. I don't want to hear that. The sun shines in every stadium in the country. They play ball every 8 or 9 times a year. They got to make these plays. They're professionals. But when he dropped that pick six, I was just sick. It was just a horrible thing. And then Lazard dropped those two passes. It was just awful. And Ralph, I write some things on this legal pad I have, uh, and the penalties I kept writing on every page. It was ridiculous, the penalties. And, we kept going for it on fourth down. I think we made one or two out of five, it was, whatever it was. But the game plan and the adjustments were non-existent. And even though I had the score wrong, I had said that this coach is like a master in chess playing somebody who just learned how to play checkers. And case in point was the second half, we were shut out. Ralph, could you explain to me why we didn't sack Stafford once? And we mentioned last week, why don't we try blitzing with Quincy Williams at all?
Yeah, I was thinking about the fact that they didn't even come close to a sack today. And you remember the first few games of the year, the Jets were right at the top of sacks, and suddenly in the last half of the year, they don't sack anybody. You talk about going on fourth downs, Marty, and the one that was the crazy one back on their own, what, 20, 30-yard line or something like that. You were against it. I felt, okay, you want to do it, you do one of two things. You either hand the ball off to Braylon Allen or you do a little play action and flip one out. He gives it to Brees Hall. Brees Hall has not made a third or fourth and one the whole year. Then they finally started playing Braylon Allen to do it, and he was making them. And they go back to Brees Hall. This was just more cluelessness on Jeff. I don't know. I was just couldn't believe it. My mind was boggled on that.
And you're right. And that's not to say I actually thought Brees Hall was running the
He
ball.
he was running it, but that's not his thing.
But that's not the point. You should be giving the ball to Braylon Allen. And Ralph, I had texted you. Is Isaiah Davis ahead of Braylon Allen now?
I don't think so. I think they're kind of getting equal time. And Deus, he's been playing well,
He
so
has.
he's
No, I'm not
yeah.
knocking him.
I don't know. I don't read too much into that. I just wish they'd run Braylon Allen outside a little more. It's always just up the middle for him. It's very predictable, and teams are probably stacking up against that. But yeah, that fourth down. I mean, he should be fired for that. I mean, I mean, we've been going through this the whole year, and we finally figured it out. And then and of all places, on our own 30 whatever yard line, and basically the Rams walked in for a touchdown. It was and you know what else I'm tired of hearing? These announcers who don't see the Jets every week, and they give you these stats like it's a top five defense, it's a top seven defense. Who the heck are they watching? This team can't get off the field, their defense. It's terrible.
They were giving up such chunk yardage to their running back. I guess it was Kyrene,
Harry Williams, yeah.
who had
Kyle or whatever.
122 yards.
Yeah, he was feisty.
Yeah, he was feisty, and they just cannot stop the run. If you remember, Ralph, I had said I was worried about that way back when.
Yeah, you were right about that, Marty.
Yeah,
I give you that one.
and Kinlaw is a waste. Clemens is a waste. Um, our linebacker, he makes plays and he's there. I'm warming up to Damian Sherwood more and more, Ralph, because
Jamian, yeah.
Jamie, because he looks like he's really into it. You see him calling singles. He's focused and he's giving 110%.
Yeah, I have no quarrel with him. I don't think he's great, but he's pretty good. And he'll probably get better. But
Yeah,
yeah, the blitzing with Quincy Williams, every time they blitz him, he does makes big plays and they just go away from it. It's always so typical of this team. When something works, they go away from it. When something doesn't work, they seem to come back to it.
right. I'm just looking for you, Ralph. Michael Clemens had one tackle.
Yeah,
Reddick had none. Um,
Reddick had one deflection. Or he's already paid dividends.
yeah, and Javon Kinlaw. Oh, I'm sorry. Leonard Taylor had three tackles. He made one great play.
Yeah.
He stuffed it at the line of scrimmage. And
He
we'll get
also follows plays down the field. I like that in him. He
yes,
made a
yes,
tackle about 8, 10 yards down the field
yes.
when these other guys couldn't handle the guy. Yeah. So
You
that's a
know,
good sign for him. He's got a
yes,
motor.
yes, he
Yeah.
hustles. It's funny when they mentioned that before they showed the replay. I said to myself, "Oh, don't tell me you dropped Leonard Taylor to pass coverage." But you're right; he hustled down on that to make the play. So that is a really good sign.
Eric Watts is a waste. He's one of these guys that I think they're in love with, and he's got no talent. I don't know why they fall for some of these guys. He does nothing when he's on the field. Uh, and you know, it reminds me. Remember years back, the Jets had a guy named Mark Lomas, a defensive end, he wasn't big, but he was slow, and they just loved him, and they kept him year after year after year. And it's that kind of stuff that they do with some of these guys.
Right.
Unfortunately, Tony Adams got hurt. I wouldn't mind, he's certainly as good as the other guys they have in there. But Ashton Davis made one nice pop on that running back,
So that
put him out of bounds,
yeah,
which is good because that was after he had been in the face of was it Sherwood? Yeah, when they were
yeah.
going at each other. Yeah.
I just want to mention too, because we've been on. Tony Adams actually played well the last 2 weeks. And at the press conference, Ulbrich said that he could have went in an emergency, but they kept him out, which is fine with me.
Well, I think Adams raised his Madden score. That's why he was allowed to play
Okay,
today.
that's right. And so I want to get into that too. I want to go through this and get into Woody Johnson. I have a few things to say. And so
Just a few.
yeah, went out with a hamstring. Um,
Yeah, whenever Sauce tries to make a tackle early in the game, you know he's going to be in the blue 10 for a while after that.
right,
It's
right.
it's, it's just so
And
predictable.
we knew it was going to be a problem with the run game where we saw Queen and Williams wasn't activated. So quickly, the Jets went on a 99-yard drive. It was really nice. And they scored a touchdown. And I guess, was that the pass to Devontae Adams, the back of the end zone?
Yeah, that was a great play
That was
by
a great
Adams.
play.
Yeah.
Great play by Adams. And of course, we missed the extra point. I don't like this kicker. I told you
Well,
that.
obviously he's gone. I
Yeah,
mean,
he's got to be
he
gone.
missed 3 kicks today. That's incredible.
Right. Yeah.
When was the last time a kicker missed three? Well, probably Zerline.
Right. But to compliment him, the Rams scored a touchdown. They missed an extra point, 6-6 in the second quarter. We got a field goal. I guess that was a short field goal, if I remember, Ralph.
Yeah, well, they were down on like the two, when they should have scored because they didn't take a timeout on a
Right.
delay of game. That's unbelievable. Remember how many times he's burned timeouts and delay of games in the first quarter or in the third quarter? And here we are with 30 seconds left. He has 3 timeouts and he won't burn one. It's
Right.
like it's like everything is like bizarro with this guy,
Yeah, it is. It's strange. He makes some great plays. He keeps looking pretty good with his foot movement, though.
Who's that?
I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, Rodgers. Yeah.
He looked pretty good. No scoring in the third quarter, fourth quarter. They scored 13. We scored nothing. Final score 19-9. Very quickly, stats. Rodgers 28 to 42, 256 yards, one TD. Russian Brees Hall 14 for only 52, but he looked good to me. and Ralph. Isaiah Davis, 3 for 12. He's looking better. Braylon Allen, 2 for 5. I like him on the field. I wish he was on the field more. Devontae Adams, he had 7 catches, 68. He was targeted 13 times. Tyler Conklin had 5 receptions. He was targeted 7. Garrett Wilson, 6 receptions for 54, targeted 7 times. Brees Hall, he looked good catching passes, 5 for 38. And Alan Lazard, I can't stand this guy.
He's unbelievable. That guy is just
This
unbelievable.
guy, I just cannot stand this guy at all. And
I mean, he is guaranteed for 1 to 2 drops every game.
it's
Uh,
incredible.
it's like clockwork.
And Jeremy Ruckett's looking a little better. 2 catches for 12. He just looks better out there, Ralph, even though
He looks fine. The
he,
one thing about Bruckert I'll say is, unlike Tyler Conklin, after he catches the ball, he doesn't get really violent and knock guys over. He goes down a little too easy
right,
for my taste. Conklin is great though. When he will
Conklin's
not go
good.
down.
Yeah, Conklin's good. Sherwood, Damon Sherwood, 8 tackles. Chuck Clark, 7. Isaiah Oliver, 6. Tony Adams, 5. DJ Reed, I thought was good today. He made one great tackle coming up.
Oh yeah, that was
Right, that was a
terrific.
beautiful play. Uh, 4, he had 4 tackle. Quincy Williams, 4. Quincy's hasn't been the same the last few games, Ralph.
Nah, I think he's lost a
I
little
don't know.
heart.
Ashton Davis, 4 tackles. Brandon Eccles, 4. That's Ray's guy. Javon Kinlaw, 3. Leonard Taylor, 3. Ralph, I like him. I like what you say about him. I try to watch him a little bit. He was, I like what I see. Will McDonald, 3 tackles, but basically invisible. He did have 1 tackle
Well,
for.
I saw him get held at least once,
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah.
and you could say it was borderline, but compared to the stuff that they're calling, I mean, some of that stuff is ridiculous. I just don't understand it. I thought McDonald showed a lot of energy. He made some downfield tackles. He followed up on plays. I don't have
Right.
a problem with him. I think he's head and shoulders better than Reddick. I can tell you that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Reddick didn't have a tackle. Clemens had 1. I'm not going to read all of the Rams. I'll just read
No,
the
please
top one.
don't.
Stafford, 14 for 19. Again, his uniform, he came out cleaner than went in, 110 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. Kyrene Williams, 23 for 122. Receivers, Puka Nakua, 8 for 56. That guy's good. Cooper Cup, 3 for 24.
Say those two quick. Puka Nakua and
Yeah,
Cooper
I
Cup.
know.
That's a tongue twister.
Yeah. And that's about it. 19-9. It was just, again, for Jets Rewind fans, we watched this, Ralph, Ray, and Marty, just because we're incredible Jet fans. But if we weren't doing the podcast, I'm not sure I could watch every game. I'd probably record it and just go through it quickly. The next 2 weeks are going to be torture. And that's all I'm going to say about the game. But I just want to say again, we've been saying it, and again, I mentioned it. If we're not getting any pressure with our 4-man front, we got to do something else. We got to blitz Quincy Williams more, 1 or 2 guys. We got to do something. You see, then Matthew Stafford had all that time, and he hits guys, and it looks like they're wide open, but they were probably covered. But the issue is he's got all this time. So that's all I have to say to the game. Then we're going to get into Woody Johnson a little bit.
Well, let me just say one thing about
You could
the.
say a few. I got to go get this newspaper that had Woody Johnson's name in it. Go ahead, keep talking.
All right. Well, as far as Rodgers, I always hear these statistics that Rodgers gets rid of the ball faster than almost any quarterback in the league statistically. But I don't know. To me, does it feel? It feels to me like he's holding on to the ball an awful lot, and he's asking the offensive linemen to hold their blocks an
Keep talking.
awful long time, and that's where a lot of the problems come with these holding penalties. So I don't know what what the statistics say, but to my visual to my the way I'm looking at it, it just seems like he holds on longer. Well, I don't know what you think, Marty.
Wait, what was the last thing you said, Ralph? I went outside. I had to get something about Rogers.
Yeah, statistically they say he gets rid of the ball quickly, but I feel like he holds on to the ball awful long time, and he's expecting the offensive lineman to hold their blocks, and
Right.
You know,
I
I don't
agree.
know if he's
But
just.
no,
You know what else bothered me about Rodgers? I'll tell you this, and he should know better than this. When they had the ball back and they were down 19-9 with about 4 minutes left, and they had to start hustling. The one thing I just can't stand is when quarterbacks throw these 2 or 3 yard dump passes. The guy gets tackled. It's a meaningless 2 yards, and the clock is running. You got to take some shots down the field. You got to if you don't see a guy open, don't dump it off if he's going to get tackled. Just throw it away. It's
yeah,
just
or throw it down. You might get a pass interception like Brady
yeah.
has got. I mean, sorry, pass interference.
Yeah, I mean, he was just dinking and dunking, and he used up so much time because of that. Garrett Wilson, he throws a 2 yard out, and Wilson, of course, goes into his dance instead of trying to get out of bounds, and it's just very bad football.
Right,
And
right. Ralph, I just want to get into the article before we close this out. As that all Jet fans know, I guess Diane Rossini from The Athletic with her crew wrote a biting piece on Woody Johnson, the owner. And I just want to state, keep stating it. I am not a Woody Johnson fan, but I'm kind of taking a different look at this, Ralph, where at first I was very, very upset. I'm still upset, but I also think it could have been a little bit of a hit job. And I don't know what the motivation is because the Jets are in the middle of interviewing general managers. And I'm saying to myself, why would they come out with this right now unless they wanted to hurt the Jets or whatever? And some of the things that came out, I'm sure everyone heard that he referred to a Madden rating of Jerry Judy, which Brian Costello of the Post refuted. He said that Sean Payton, he didn't want Alan Lazard in the trade anyway. So it could have been
why wouldn't he want Alan Lazard?
it could have been, and Woody Johnson makes sarcastic remarks. He could have said something like, "Oh, and we won't do it." By the way, my son said that anyway. He has a lousy Madden rating, in passing. So whatever, it's hard. We don't know what to believe. There are a few other things that bothered me a lot, but what really bothered me, Ralph, and Woody Johnson's got to change. I opened up yesterday's Wall Street Journal. And I'll hold it up. On the front page of the top editorial, it says, I don't know if you could see it, the Woody Johnson Republicans.
Yeah, what is that about?
Well, the Wall Street Journal, they wrote this editorial, but they're kind of making fun of Woody Johnson. They're using the Woody Johnson name as kind of a verb in a negative connotation. So I think what I'm kind of saying is it's becoming such a joke. And Ralph, I had texted you at the beginning of the game. Connor Hughes had said that he still thinks, from what he hears, the Jets are an attractive place to be GM and coach because they have a good, solid offensive line right now, 4 to 5. I really believe, and again, I'm not a Woody Johnson fan. I think it was a bit of a hash job, but he's got to change his ways going into next year. He really does. I think he should give a call to the owner of the Knicks, Dolan, because Dolan was like a mirror image of him, and then he took a step back, and look how the Knicks turned around. I think he's really got to change and take a step back because I've heard other stuff also. One of the things is he had some of his investment group attend a couple of Jets meetings. Now that's not confirmed, but if that's true, that's ridiculous too.
Well, I mean, a lot of the things I heard, if they're true, it's ridiculous. Like having his teenage sons hanging around and what the thing when he was in the locker room after Mike White's game against Seattle and he said, "You suck" in front of everyone. I mean, look, this is a play toy for Woody Johnson, who's a trust fund baby. He's never really earned, he's never had any pressure on him in his life. And I don't think he's going to change. I think at this point in his life, he's just going to do what the heck he wants to do. I'm waiting for him to get an ambassadorship to get this guy out of town, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Someone else just got British one. I forget who it was.
Bahamas, you know who it is. It's the Herschel Walker.
Oh, he got the Bahamas, Herschel Walker, but
That's
it
the one,
wasn't.
Ralph. That's the one I wanted. Imagine that you bastard in the Bahamas. All you do is entertain. You play golf, sit by the beach during the day. What a gig, Herschel Walker. Leave it to him. Good for him.
Hey,
Yeah,
he earned it doing all those push-ups. But no, he wasn't Woody. Woody was in England last year, Great
yeah.
Britain.
England and someone
Yeah,
else, another billionaire.
yeah. Someone else got it.
I,
Wow.
I think you're right, but I don't know if he's going to change or not. I think all these things Jet fans want him to sell the team. That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And I got to tell you, and the more you hear about Woody Johnson, and if even half of it is true, I'm at the point where like if the Jets are crappy, I can be happy with that because I know that that'll piss off Woody Johnson because he's just horrible. And you said me in a text this week before you sort of change your tune a little that you think he's like the worst owner of all time. And
Right.
if half or three-quarters of this stuff is true, he certainly is. He's horrible. He's just
I think he is again, but I don't like him, but I still think it was the timing of the article is a little bit of
yeah.
a catcher to hit
Well, do
job.
you think Joe Douglas is one of the sources? That's what I don't know. And
I
he
don't think so from what I've heard. I'm not 100% sure. Him and Salah. And again, keep in mind this still on the contract. Someone had mentioned it. I don't know what that means though. Does that mean if they finds out he could stop paying him? I don't know.
I don't know
But
either.
yeah, but look, let's be honest. Okay. We don't like Woody Johnson, but look, Robert Saleh is not a head coach. And Robert Douglas, I'm sorry, Joe Douglas did not distinguish himself as a general manager. Okay.
No, unfortunately, you're right on both of those. We thought they were good hires. Everyone did, but you never know. Now, moving forward, though, you talk about Connor Hughes saying the Jets are still a desirable place. I don't know if they are or aren't. There's gonna, of course, there are only 32 general manager and 32 coaching jobs, and they pay awfully well, and there's a lot of status with them. So there are going to be people who are going to take that job. People who think they have the ego to deal with it. But my question is, if you're somebody who has some stature and Woody Johnson wants to hire you, and what kind of conditions do you like get put in this contract with Woody Johnson? How does that work? I mean, it's
I don't know if you could put any conditions in there. It's like you're working for the guy, he's paying you a lot of money, but he's going to do what he wants. If he wants to show up at the game plan meeting, he'll show up. If he wants to sit next to the general manager at the draft, he's going to do that. If he wants to have his son in at the draft, he's going to do that.
he
I
wants
don't,
to tell these guys to not play guys during on game day. I mean,
well, except the Tony Adams one I liked at the time.
Tony Adams,
But
what do you
since
like?
then, Tony Adams has played
Yeah,
better.
right. I wonder if Woody was listening to us all these years about Tony
Yeah, Woody
Adams.
was right. Woody
Well,
was right.
the whole thing about Tony Adams is they pumped him up so much, and he's just, he's an okay player. And, but we're sitting there, everyone's waiting for Tony Adams to be Ed Reed, and he's, and so they sort of overplayed their hand with him. And they fall in love with guys, and, it's to the
Right.
detriment of the players sometimes because it's just, the expectations are just too high.
Right. Now, Ralph, they interviewed a number of people. One of them was this Dimitrioff. If I don't,
Yes, Thomas Dimitroff, who built Ray's all-time favorite team, the Atlanta Falcons, lost the Super Bowl.
and
But
the
to
other
me,
one,
he did a good job there.
yeah, and the other one is John Robinson, the Titans. And they interviewed a couple other people. One guy is this guy Nagy who runs the Senior Bowl.
Right. Yeah.
And they also have in their front office, who's the guy they have, who's the
Phil
interim,
Savage.
who's that? Who, I'll be honest, I don't want him as general manager, but if he wants to stick around as an advisor,
Uh,
the general manager gets along with him, I'm all for it because he's had experience. But in my mind, Ralph, to me, it's a no-brainer with Dimitrioff. I think that's the guy you want to get. I think he's
well,
so
uh,
qualified. He's done it. He took a couple years off. He did a company that does this analytics on football players or whatever, the draft. So they interviewed him, and I'm really pulling for this guy. I mean, the only
Yeah, I'd have no problem with that either. You know, the question is, does Dimitrov want the job? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's out of a job right now, so yeah,
well,
probably looks pretty good. You know, the other thing I heard is with Woody Johnson is, and apparently they claim, some of the writers claim he did this with Joe Douglas. He gave him a couple of years. He sat back, and when things didn't start congealing, that's when he started getting nosy. So maybe they feel like the same thing will happen with whoever they hire this time. You give him a couple of years, and if the things aren't going in the right direction, then he's going to start getting obnoxious again. So, the clock is ticking on whoever takes
what
this job.
Ralph, the 32 teams owned by 32 billionaires
Well,
that,
not except for Green Bay.
yeah, yeah, that's true. They're public. That most of the owners have built businesses, unlike, Woody Johnson. And a lot of them think because they can build a hedge fund or a different manufacturing business that they know how to pick a franchise. Now, winning takes care of a lot of problems, but you're up in New England. I've even heard that Bob Kraft is getting a little annoyed at their coach right now for some of the play calling.
Well, Kraft loved Gerard Mayo for years. He's had his eye on him. A lot of people think that Mayo is in over his head, but they're skeptical because they still feel like Kraft is going to give him another year, which he probably deserves. That Patriots team was built to bomb this year. It really was, and I think he's actually played a lot of competitive games. So I think I'd give him one more year. I think one year is, unless he's lost the locker room, which
Right. But what I'm saying is your point is uh, very well taken that the owners will sit back for a year or two, keep their mouth shut. But if the losing is systemic, these guys are used to winning in their own life. They're used to get in their way. It's not just Woody Johnson. They're going to step up and put their 2 cents in it, whether it's Bob Kraft, David Tepper of Carolina, or any of the other owners.
Jerry Jones, well, I always thought he was the worst, but this looks like Woody has topped him.
Right, right. And look, now a lot of Giant fans are on John Mara, one of the most respected families ever, which
Hmm.
is, which to me, which is incredible.
Uh, you think back 2 years ago when the Giants beat Minnesota in the playoffs, and it looked like they were headed for wow. Things change in the NFL fast, not for long. And like I said, like I texted you during the game, the Giants. Now there's a team that knows how to tank.
Right.
Boy, boy, if they got in the toilet, that team.
I had my son over. He was watching the game with me, and as we're gonna have to when we close this out, your friend Marty's going to be babysitting for the next 24 hours, which
Wait, is Elaine there?
she's here. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then Elaine's going to be
But
babysitting.
I turned to him and I said, isn't it incredible this country with over 300 million people, there are not more than 18 or 20 men that can lead a team of 10 other guys on their team down the field. You don't have that many quarterbacks that could do the job when you think about it, which is unbelievable.
Well,
Now,
I think there would be more if you had better organizations. You stick any quarterback on a lousy organization, a lousy coach, and they're going to fail. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is first ballot Hall of Famer. How has he looked this year? Pretty lousy because part of it's because it's a crappy organization.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
but
But
yeah.
I think the thing also with quarterbacks, patience is the key. I don't know if you did Carolina end up holding on to.
I'm not sure. I kind of hope they did because we're fighting them for a playoff position right now.
Let me just see, Ralph, as we're
I'm
going.
sure Jet Luck and Arizona pulled the game out.
Yeah, Arizona, I think they're fighting for their playoff life too. Hold on just a second. The Patriots are ahead of Buffalo, by the way, Ralph, as we're talking. Yeah, it's a must game. I have to make this a little wide. But
Buffalo's locked into the second seed, I think. Oh, well, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm just see. Let's see. Washington came back to beat the Eagles. Wow.
They did? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, they were down by
Third,
five with a minute.
well, Jalen Hurts got hurt.
He got hurt.
Yeah, so Pickett was in there.
Yeah, I know. And then the announcers were saying, "Yeah, it pays to have a good backup quarterback." Kenny Pickett? You gotta be kidding me.
Carolina beat Arizona 36-30.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, so
So
and
how many wins is that for Carolina? Four? Maybe they're tied with us now.
it's so hard to do this thing here. Let's see. Hold on just a second. Ralph, let me see.
I got time.
Yeah, Carolina is 4-11.
So they're neck and neck with the Jets. They didn't play each other, so it'll be whoever has the weaker schedule.
And for,
But the Jets have Buffalo, Miami. That's it,
right,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
Who's next week? Buffalo?
I think Buffalo. And just for all you Carolina fans and
Miami could be a problem. That
and
could.
uh, people that were upset about their first pick, when I mentioned patience, Bryce Young was 17 for 26, two TD passes, no interceptions. Not that many yards, 158. And also he ran 5 times for 68 yards, scored a TD.
Yeah, well, he's one of these guys that maybe 4 years down the road and his third stop will be good. Hey, how did Michael Penix do today? They didn't really need him because they got two pick sixes, but
Yeah, he wasn't that great. I looked at his stats. He wasn't that
talk
great.
about a bizarre thing, signing Kirk Cousins to that big contract
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then just dumping him in the middle of the year. It's like that.
yeah,
That is strange.
right, right. All right. Anything else? We covered the Jets as they lost to the Rams, LA Rams, and they move on. They play Buffalo. I guess up in Buffalo, it'll probably be about -30 wind chill next week.
Well, Aaron Rodgers, that's one thing about him. He's used to that. So is Devontae Adams. And of course, Alan Lazard can drop passes in any climate. He's
Right,
talented.
right. Ralph, if I get an invite to Kathy Hochul's box indoors, I'll give you a call during the week up there.
Well,
But
the Knicks are doing okay, so at least we have them.
that's true. But anyway, look, I just want to mention too, I mentioned it. I want to wish all fans of Jets Rewind Merry Christmas. And, again, think of people, think of your family, but think that, you have a lot of people that don't have what you have. So if you could spare any sort of food to your synagogue, church, or mosque, bring it down there. They have food banks there. So with that, we're going to close it out for Ralph Schrager, Marty Schupak, and Ray Clifford, who is off today. Until next time.